Absolutely incredible!
Let me
She must be from twitch.tv/Patronix1234.
She must be. It's non-negotiable.
That's equivocally what I was saying.
Yeah.
My heart.
I
loved her.
Yeah.
This has been the train these two chuckle fucks have been on most of today.
Most of today? You mean the
most
past
of today.
10 minutes?
Most of today.
I mean, for you, that probably is most of today.
Most of today.
You say that. I've had a rather average, yet for that, productive day this Thursday so far.
No way.
Yeah. So hey everybody. Welcome to another iteration of DBA Downtimes, a spin-off or offshoot of our weekly tabletop RPG run in the anime campaign, our Epithet System, known as Destruction Bench Agreement, hence the name DBA. This is one of our, side series where tabletop RPGs, they're a role-playing game, and role-playing games typically, part of it's roleplay, part of it's the combat, and everything comes together for a whole. And we already have other side series that focus on the combat. So downtimes are basically a way for us to focus near entirely on RP, unless a specific scenario dictates otherwise. And in terms of the in-universe stakes, an important distinction is that, unless specified, downtimes are not televised to the world, unlike DBA sessions, which are, and that's part of the whole thing. So this is basically a chance for our characters to be around each other, go ahead and do whatever it is that they want to do outside of the watchful eye of the world. And specifically, today is a short story, which if you've been around before, you will know that compared to the more general downtime talk fiesta, where everyone kind of stands in a room and RPs at each other for 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. Short stories are usually a little bit more of a specific story event that is occurring that is simply not in a regular DBA session. That's precisely what's happening here. You may remember from a DBA session a while back now at this point. What was its exact number? I believe 142, but let me make
that would be it.
Short. Yes, it was 142. We had... it was called The Reaper's Reflection, and it saw the party going into the abandoned, collapsed temple that had raised out of the sand, seemingly belonging to some sort of Reaper society. And we're brought in there, and through there not only learn more about some funny Reaper stuff going on, but more about themselves through the nature of the temple, including one white Netsujo, who is one of my characters. They're a funny ghost epithet construct that is possessing a suit of armor, and unfortunately for them, they're an amnesiac. They're thrilling, totally not cliche. They obviously would like to know exactly what it is that they were created to do, as they are seemingly displaced in time in that they have been hibernating for a very long time, and they have some sort of sense of what they were created to do, but they're trying to find their purpose in the world. And within that Reaper's Reflection episode, they managed to, with some other party members, find some pretty nice people who have offered to try and help them in their goal of discovering their past out of the kindness of their hearts, presumably. So I am Patronix or Soleil. Not only will I be the forefront runner here, but I'm playing white. They're my character, so they're involved. And then we have the two people that have offered to try and help them. We'll start with the one that is enabling us to be in the location, which I will describe once we're done introducing everybody. Scarlet.
Hi, I'm the reason that everyone is here, in a weird kind of way. Basically, Arlia was like, you know what, pal, I'll help. I am Death. I can help you out with finding a bit on your past. And then, next thing she knows, the person that she came from probably, made herself known and was like,
I am the Fragment Mommy, except not, don't call me that, except don't have another name for me.
Exactly. All mysterious and shit. And Arlia's been thoroughly spooked and not been sleeping very well. Yeah. That's that. Ask no more questions. Thank you.
Yeah. And then up next we have the other person, the brains of the operation. We got Kakapo.
Sorry, I need to post that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Kakapo. I'm playing funny resident smart girl, Alchemea Sibis. You know, she introduced herself as a fellow amnesiac alongside White, not really sure where her parents are, and she was trapped in school for a long time. That's kind of her deal, but now she's out of that situation, which is good. But you know, well, she has no, point of reference to start for her own stuff. She figured she might as well do some research, put in like the elbow grease to help White discover their past, just because she's invested in that type of stuff, and here she is. She might have some insight to give based off of actual real world history that I've been doing for the past while.
The Meiji era.
Don't joke.
But there we go. We have some people which, as I said, out of the goodness of their heart or whatever reason they may have decided to help out our good pal White here. And hey, they aren't going to say no to that. They like friends. They appreciate help. So there's that.
Yeah.
And before
we all know how conniving Arlia is.
Oh yeah, that's her like main character trait. We all know her for. Before we continue onward with explaining precisely what's going on here, first up we also have Ballast, who has very graciously offered to stream this for us today. So thank you very much. Yeah. I don't think this should go for too long. If I had to put an estimate, I'd say hour and a half tops, but we'll see how long it ends up actually going. And if you're new around here, you're enjoying yourself, and you want to know when, where, how, why, you can catch up with more of the things we're doing here on this Twitch channel, whether it be DBA, its spin-offs, or otherwise. You should join our Discord server. Good dining, yow! There's the link! So, thank you. And with that, Kakapo Starlet, you ready to get going?
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready, alright.
Alright, so...
Well...
Yeah.
Scar, Soleil, want to open us up with, funny flavor text?
Well, yeah, no, that's what I was about to do.
Yeah.
So, basically, excuse me. Thing is, as I mentioned, and as Scarlet continued to elaborate on, it has been a bit since the Reaper's Reflection episode, primarily because Arlia has been rather busy and sleepless lately. And so now there's a moment that she, potentially, hypothetically, seemingly, is a little bit more lucid, and is a bit more wanting proactively to assist in this mission they had set up. So after a fair bit, they've all recollected, and this area that you all find yourselves in, if you have not seen this before, is the Grand Library of the Soul, which is within the underworld, what is essentially the purgatory of this world, which was first shown in episode 91 of Destruction Bench Agreement, belonging to Bishop and Cardinal Seward, who are the younger twin brothers of Arlia's master, Velatri. And basically, Arlia presumably has brought them here via her, method that she goes here. And what exactly would you say that Arlia has done to preface this exact visit, Scarlet?
She is very, very, very by the book regarding everything about the Reapers, because truth be told, she's still a bit of a nervous wreck around all of them. So she would just be like, I have sort of scheduled this time for us to just do research. I don't make a promise for me being useful, considering how tired I've been, but more or less it would have just been she went through all the metaphorical paperwork, okayed it with everyone.
And so, with that being the case, presumably you arrive here in the Grand Library of the Soul, as you would normally. And would you say that Arlia immediately teleported into the Grand Library or outside and walked in with everyone?
Outside and walked in, I'd say.
Okay. Well, if that is the case, before we go on, from the right around the moment that you guys would have gotten down here, if you were to have been paying attention to White, you would have noticed that, similar to how they were near the end of Reaper's Reflection, right, when they were in the boundary between life and death, as Esmeralda called it, White was sort of shivering, overtaken by energy, and in a very similar way, they are... Well, I say in almost precisely the same way, they are doing the same thing again. But other than that, feel free to take it away, guys.
Alchemea would sort of just look, just kind of take in, like, the massive tomes of, like, history and knowledge at first. Like, even if she wasn't in a situation where she was helping out a friend, she'd still, like, be kind of just fascinated by just how much is here, and stuff. But wouldn't be able to see it on her face just by her looking around and stuff.
Arlia just casually sits down in a particular chair.
Okay, yeah, and Alchemea, at this point, you see Carrie, like, she has, like, a bag with her, and, like, she kind of sits down and sort of sits forward and, puts forward a bunch of books. Come on, roll 20. A bunch of books. I hate you, roll 20. How about this asset?
That's a lot.
There we go. Yeah, no. It is a lot of books. She sort of, like, just puts it forward. You see stuff, like, based off of, like, Japanese history and, like, probability physics and all of that, just weird stuff. Just books based off of those two topics is, like, what you'd be able to catch, like, at a glance. And this is all the research I've accumulated ever since, we've set out to do this whole helping you out thing.
As you say that, Alchemea, and you both sort of find yourselves situating yourselves in your seats, Arlia, as you sit down, I imagine give, like, a brief look to Bishop and Cardinal, who nod and acknowledge your presence, as White then takes the spot that they are currently standing in.
Yep.
Once again, I must thank the both of you graciously.
It's really fine. I am just lucky to have people who deal with me in so many words.
Right.
Works and all. Anyway.
And again, it's nothing. I mean, not only am I helping out someone who, faces similar problems with me, but it also gives me an excuse to do research, so. Which, I guess because I'm a parody of myself, it's sort of my favorite pastime, so there you go.
There's nothing bad with wanting to do research and expand your knowledge and all this other stuff. I have teachers. She sweats lightly at the mention of that, thinking about the black hole of Otigos.
I mean, if you want him to show up, just let me know.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there, she says, like, just trying to calm herself down. Anyway. So, where should we start, I guess?
I'm not sure myself. This is, as you described it, a library in which they keep records of deceased souls, yes?
Mostly, pardoning a few. She lowers her voice a bit, gaps in their knowledge.
I see.
Well, if we're going to conduct this research, the session of, what we found, what we're going to do, and all of that, I have a couple questions for you, White. To start us off, 1. Between what you knew back when we explored the temple and right now, what if exactly you discovered? Because from what I know, you're doing your own research on your own time. So if there's any useful things there, that'd be
Yes,
good to
right. To be entirely frank, I haven't discovered all too much. Mainly, I have simply honed my own abilities, learned more of my epithets. My research has not been as book studious as something as yours. I have simply, in my off time, been wandering any off location I could find seemingly related to, well, anything I could find related to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been very successful in finding incredibly pertinent information. However, in terms of my self-betterment, my training, that has been rather effective.
Yeah, she would just kind of nod at that. Alright, then I guess to confirm some, research I've been doing. I'm pretty sure these 2 questions have rather obvious answers, but I'd like to ask them again for clarification. 1. Was your epithet yours before you took this form? Did you have it in life, per se?
They cross their arms and look off to the side.
I suppose I am unable to say for certain. However, I believe that yes, this was most likely the epithet that I had in life.
Alright.
I'm not entirely sure of the exact circumstance of how epithets transfer, because as I understand it, I am less an exact person who was born with it, and more so a reincarnation of my past self's will, and therefore I would assume that their epithet is what I am, to some extent.
Well, based off of what we know of post-mortem epithets, I don't see any reason why it swap out or anything like that. And 2, again, should have a pretty obvious answer, but I need to confirm this. Were you a samurai in your past reincarnation?
Much as before, it is very technically uncertain. However, that uncertainty is very, very shaky. I certainly believe that I was when I awoke. I have always been possessing the armor itself and my sword.
They extend their arm and have it extend out from the groove in their arm.
Carlia jolts awake.
Yeah.
Was with me from the moment that I awoke. My apologies for disturbing your rest.
No, it's fine. I really need to get better about falling asleep in inconvenient places. She just readjusts herself, sits up straight.
Again, I do not remember necessarily, but unless a particularly strange circumstance happened, I am not sure why someone would transfer their soul into the armor and weaponry of a samurai, if not for being one themselves. I suppose there is a circumstance that could have arisen that led to that, but considering circumstance and, well, frankly, my natural affinity for the sword and combat, I would assume that yes, most likely.
So there is plausible deniability.
I suppose so. However,
But it is...
I would greatly assume that it was the case.
Alright. So, if we can greatly assume both that the epithet eigenstates and the abilities and armor of a samurai were with you in your past life, that tells us a lot, actually. Way more than you might think.
Really, no.
Yes, actually. Because it opens up a very narrower window than when we started. She takes out like a probability physics book and sort of like opens it up to a certain page. For you see the word eigenstates. It was, research on things like that were brought about for a while, but the word itself was brought about in the early 19th century by Augustine Louis Cauchy, who saw how quadratic surfaces could be generalized into arbitrary dimensions and went from there. He would be the one to coin the word eigenstates. She puts the book down and takes and picks up one based off of samurai and the Edo period. Now, Japan was under a period of isolation for about 200 years. A little more than that, but for simplification, that's just around the time. But towards the end of the 19th century, foreign intervention brought a period of instability that not only brought about the end of the samurai, but sort of made Japan an industrial power, but in doing so, cast aside its tradition, and as I said before, ended the samurai caste and the traditions that followed it.
So what you're implying is that, if I'm understanding all of these words you are saying,
They, again, retract their sword and cross their arms.
Since my epithet is, or rather was, theoretically eigenstates back in my previous life, I must have existed sometime between the coinage of the word and the fall of the samurai.
Yes. Between the years 1808 and, if I had to give it an absolute latest period, 1877 was the last stand of the samurai at Shirayama, but 1869 was when the caste was officially abolished.
I see.
They place a hand up to what would be the equivalent of their chin and sort of ponder for a moment.
While this is going on, I'm not sure how I didn't put this together earlier, but simply put, I'll be back in a minute, alright?
Very well. I understand. All of the words that are coming from Alchemea are rather large and many of them rather confusing. I understand.
I apologize.
Required.
No, it's not a matter of that, it's a matter of just... I've been reminded of something that I should probably clear with a couple of people. As she just stands up, shakes herself awake a bit, and walks over to Bishop and Cardinal. But we can put a pause on that conversation.
Anything else anything else Alchemea wanted to say?
Nothing in particular. That was mainly her big research, unless White has anything to say to her.
Yeah, no. Well, other than the...
Well, theoretically, if you are correct and I am assuming correctly, that narrows things down quite a bit.
Yes. The best thing to do from here would to find every inscribed samurai with, similar lifespan to that.
That seems like a rather tall order, however. I suppose if there's any place for that to happen,
And as that is said, we can move over to Arlia, right? As she walks over to Bishop and Cardinal. Hello, Arlia, Bishop says.
Hi, sorry to bother you. I know.
No,
that
it's
you
fine.
two
You alerted us beforehand that you would be doing this.
and I know that you two are incredibly busy as is, she says with a roll of her eyes, accentuated for cuteness, but otherwise, I guess I wanted to ask something of, fellow reapers in the field, as it were. She, swallows, calling herself a reaper. That's new. From the person I brought in, right?
You mean the samurai? Cardinal says.
Yeah. Does he, I guess, remind you of the husks at all? She looks over her shoulder. Just, I have this weird feeling of almost deja vu, I guess.
They both look over, and Bishop particularly, similar to White did earlier, puts a hand to his chin and sort of squints, leans forward, takes a good hard look. I believe to some extent, it is very clear that they are radiating some sort of deathly energy. Whether it's of the husks specifically or not is a bit difficult, for the husks are what remains of a soul that is, well,
long since dead.
Long
Lost.
past, and was unable to find their way to the afterlife for one reason or another. And, takes some papers that he was looking at, just, grabs them, does the thing, tap tap against the table as they, sort them together. I'm not sure if it's precisely the husks, but if anything, the thing that's the most similar, aside from the energy itself, is the relation to the soul from before, much like a husk which is born from a portion of the soul. It seems that whatever created... This is the phenomenon they're calling it in the material plane post-mortem epithets, yes?
She just nods.
Bishop puts down the papers he was looking at, crosses his arms, and leans back a little bit. Again, I'm not entirely sure, but simply from looking at it, it appears that, much like from what I've overheard you all talking about, they certainly seem to be a remnant of the soul left behind from death, and so in that way, yes, there is a similarity to husks.
Just, in a word, or in multiple, rather, just reminded me of someone who had, She just waves her hand like, never mind. Just thought I'd inquire about that.
I understand.
Speaking of, want to talk to you about a smaller thing in the future. Don't worry about it too much. I have a guest to tend to, but
Is this related to everything with this white person, or is this something else? Something regarding us, other Reapers, the Underworld, Velatry? Bishop starts rattling off everything. Cardinal, looks over.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Though, for future reference, I suppose, it has to do with an organization called the Legion of Lost Angels.
Yes, Cardinal says. From everything that we've been hearing, they seem to have some sort of relation to everything that's going on with DBA. Yeah. Everything that's going on here with DBA that's connecting them to some extent. Heard the name.
She just waves a hand dismissively. That'll be all for now. If you have no further things to say.
Give me a moment, actually. Cardinal specifically, because Bishop is too busy like just staring,
Just
and prattling.
continuing.
Yeah, continuing, like looking down, like equation memes in his head. Cardinal's gonna like take a step up and like take a few paces closer, right, and just like look at White. Hands in his pockets. White looks over. Greetings. Cardinal clicks his tongue a few times. There is certainly something with that one, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. There's something else there.
Yes, right. Thank you. Yeah.
I know that's rather vague, and I apologize that it doesn't help you much, if anything, because what I'm feeling from it is there's obviously the telltale signs of something related to death. However, they have not expressed any connection to the underworld prior, have they?
Not that I know of, no. I guess it depends on what you mean, but...
I mean something more specific than simply death itself.
Arlia, like, turns to Alchemea. Hi. Friends.
Hi.
She
you
points
you
to
can-
the brothers.
No,
Ignore
I
that.
understand. I've watched.
Greetings.
I've watched. Yes, hello. I've watched DBA. No, I've. White and I have kind of finished up our conversation, so I'm just here to ask a question after you're done.
Well, I suppose I should ask, do you know anything of the sort? I, truth be told, don't know White amazingly, so if there's anyone...
What exactly are you asking of me?
She, just like... Oh, God, again. Okay. It was basically... Do you think you have much of a relationship to, the underworld?
I'm not entirely sure, but last time, after the temple, yes, we went with that woman, Esmeralda.
Esmeralda.
We ended up in the underworld last time, yes. Well, I'm not sure exactly what it is. Whenever we're here, I feel something within my being that wants to cry out, but I can't identify it.
She just looks to Cardinal and like just I guess a look of unease.
Yeah.
Best word that could describe it.
I see. If I had to take a guess, he says, leaning back in his chair again. I'm not sure what. But wherever your soul comes from, there has to be some deeper connection, whether there's some sort of imbalance in your cycle of life and death, or... He takes a hand and puts it to his mouth, sort of thinking a bit more for a moment. You don't suppose... Well, hold on a moment. When exactly... Because you all, from what I remember hearing Arlia talking to... When Arlia was saying when she was organizing this, you all... Have you narrowed down a time frame to which they may have existed?
1808 to... Yeah, 1808 to... I'd say around... 1877 at the latest, though I don't imagine White. Although, it's not the most likely that White was at the last stand at Shirayama, so 1869.
Yes.
Maybe a bit later. Let's say 1880 as the absolute latest, just in case White died later.
Yes, let's go with those numbers, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I see. And wordlessly, Bishop kind of extends a hand and telekinetically grabs a book from the shelf behind him and just starts flipping through it.
Show off.
I see. Well, unfortunately, I mean, I suppose to you two, Bishop says, looking at Alchemea and White specifically, I doubt it. Arlia hasn't explained the system of the libraries throughout the underworld, no?
Not quite.
So that's not to say that I don't know a lot on the matter. It's just that
I'm well aware that you certainly do. You've done plenty of research here before. So, Bishop places the book down for a moment and sort of like looks a little like, yes, I get to tell people about this again.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is the Grand Library of the Soul. It's a rather fun name. I like to think that Cardinal and I had a great time coming up with it. However, the name The Grand Library of the Soul implies that it perhaps is only one. However, that is not the case. There are many scattered throughout the underworld. For, as you may or may not know, Velatri, our older sister, is not the only Reaper of humankind. She is a Reaper for a portion of humankind, as well as some other people, regarding both location within the world itself and various other factors. Unfortunately, our factors do not necessarily reach to the Asian area. We're more of the, Western area where we are all from, where you all are from, rather, sort of, points to Alchemea, or like more so gestures to Alchemea in this case.
Mm-hmm,
However,
she would nod.
we have rather direct communication with each other. So while this library doesn't have particularly too much, we have looked into things before. And from what I remember, there were, well, obviously there are things on many samurai that have passed, and there are many of the sort. He takes a moment. All of this to say, I'm not sure if we exactly will have the exact information you're looking for here, per se, but there may be other libraries. However, I'm trying to recall if there's anything I've read in the past that could perhaps... He crosses his arms a bit more firmly, closes his eyes.
This is where we present the key item that, like...
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, theoretically. But
no, it's all good.
Obviously, I've read quite a bit. I'm not sure if that specific era is anything particularly coming to mind. Not necessarily. However, well, I'm gonna give Bishop a roll real quick. Okay, that's not polarized enough for me. Let's go a different. Let's see. Okay. So.
Okay.
All right.
Right. You said what was that time frame again? Exactly. Can you repeat that? Snaps a few times.
1808 to 1880.
1808 to 1880. Right. No, now I remember. Cardinal just sort of picks up a book and chuckles to himself and starts reading it as yep, this is here we go. If I'm recalling correctly, around that time, I'm not sure exactly where within that time frame. Does that count as prof? Honestly, that's weird because his epithet is mind and he's thinking, but
we don't have to worry about it.
We'll think about that later. But basically, I'm not sure of the exact point within that time frame. However, it is around that time where there was a strange phenomenon, not just happening in Japan, but I remember that there was a specific instance with it happening there, where various members of samurai clans, there was one in particular, I'm not sure, the name isn't immediately coming to me, but there was a samurai clan, perhaps multiple, and certain instances simply around the world, but this was a particularly notable one where many of the books we had received, or well, rather others had received in other libraries regarding the passing of various people were, well, to be frank, rather empty. He crosses his arms.
Eyebrow raise.
If
Normally,
I
the
may
way
give
it... Yes?
Just, if I may give a stab in the dark to the name of the clan, Netsujo?
Netsujo. He thinks for a moment. I'm not sure I remember that as a clan. I seem to remember that name somewhere. I believe there was at least...
I see.
I've definitely heard that name somewhere in relation to this case. However, he sort of is, takes out some papers from, in the desk, sort of flips around to some, really old, crusty-looking papers and shit that seem, who knows how long they've been in there. Again, I'm not entirely sure, and to be frank, even to people such as us, because... Well, I'm not sure how well you both know this, looks to Alchemea and White, because I'm not sure exactly how much of our existence has been broadcast to the world at large. However, our society is a very tiered one. And don't get me wrong, we are most certainly rather benefited from being related to our father in the first place, who has a great deal of knowledge. However, even the familial bonds in that case aren't necessarily perfect here. There's some information that's kept even from us, per se, or at least, I say that's kept from us, that at the very least we aren't privy to, such as, for instance, the exact nature of the events that happened there. I'm not sure who would know exactly what happened. It seems to have been... it seems to have been a rather deliberate thing to some regard, but I'm not entirely sure. And to be honest, I had been very curious on this in the past, but as we are always busy, I couldn't put too much thought into it, as it was never the priority over handling the here and now. He puts this paper back in the drawer. However, all of this is to say that while I'm not exactly sure if your pal White here fits exactly into it, considering the time period, the locale, the fact that they are a samurai specifically, it seems to potentially line up with this period of time regarding various people, groups of people, not just in Japan, but over the world, not having their stories recorded properly.
So maybe it's a matter of some... She shakes her head. Never mind.
It could be many things. Various different people have varying motives. Obviously, we all try and stick to our, grand objective of making sure that the balance of life and death is handled as properly as possible. However, everyone has their own free will, and sometimes will act of their own accord, which is what led to certain things, such as the Reaper Wars and everything else that you're well aware of, I'm sure, at this point, Arlia. However, there is many different motivations you could have. Perhaps it would be someone simply slacking off. However, that would be unlikely, because many of the people that write the books in the first... And, it just like...
Yeah. However, she raises a hand.
Alchemist. Yeah, Alchemist would just be staring at Bishop as if they were having a normal conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just, however, yes, the point stands that there are many different possibilities that could lead into this, and my apologies, but even the two of us have not been let in on exactly what's going on there, if there is even something to be let in on, or if it was some freak accident.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you
just Alchemist would raise her hand at this point.
Yes.
If you let me finish my sentence, Arlia says, staring at Cardinal. I was going to say, do you think that it had anything to do with matters in the physical plane at the time?
Matters in the physical plane.
Yes, that was what I was going to ask. Something along the lines of what I was going to ask. I was going to ask anything among those lines have happened recently. Because comparing what has happened, more recently to something that's happened in the more relatively distant past, we might be able to compare and contrast.
Exactly, and plus, well, bluntly put, there's a, how shall I say? I am very well versed, only partially of my own accord, in Reaper culture and the like, and if there was a long period of time in which there are just a lack of things being written down about souls, and now it's her turn to start mumbling to herself, I don't think that would be allowed, or at least it wouldn't be noted for...
Precisely, Bishop says, sort of like still looking down, like waves his hand. That's exactly what I'm trying to figure out right now as we're talking, and as, he says that, White interrupts with,
I believe this is a rather paradoxical question. If the problem is that various souls were not documented properly, would it not be difficult to compare and contrast aspects of said souls, considering they are not tracked?
That is right, but I asked for something more recent because in that case, people working here would be able to know the phenomenon of why they weren't recorded. So you might have at least some idea.
Recently, Cardinal thinks to himself, I can't think of a particular event of recent note. Anyway, this phenomenon happened a fair whiles ago at this point. But it's nowhere near as common anymore, at least in the grand scale that it was, because the reason that I'm certain that Bishop even remembered it in the first place is that it wasn't just one or two. This was a thing that happened to a fair number of people across the world. However, as I just said, from what I'm remembering, it slowed down over time to the point where there's always mistakes, as much as we would like this to be a perfect system. So long as the people that are in charge have some level of autonomy, there's always bound to be some sort of something to slip through the cracks. And all of this to say, there are certainly things, but this event, where it was more common than ever before, it hasn't quite reached a fever pitch much like that.
I feel like there's something wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something that isn't quite making sense, and as much as I hate to admit it, I think that I know a decent place to start, potentially. Aforementioned Legion of Lost Angels.
What about them exactly?
There's been a certain detail about one that has just very much left me off-put. And
Could you elaborate, please?
She looks to Bishop and Cardinal, and to be honest, she's probably brought up concerns with Ezekiel before, so would she be allowed to mention it?
Yeah, no, they'd not.
Okay, then. There's one particular individual in the Legion by the name of Ezekiel. And, well...
Oh, that one, yes. The monster one, right?
I believe I remember seeing them on the television, yes.
She gets a bit more nervous as she starts to go through her sort of thought process. After seeing him, there was just a sort of overwhelming feeling of something with him being wrong. Very, 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 very wrong, and I was stuck on it for a while. But then, after a while of thinking, it came to me when I was looking at a husk, And it's part of the reason why I mentioned that White could potentially be connected, because they are remarkably similar. The same sort of deathly aura, the same size, and I talked with anyone that I could about the last name, and all that I could really discover was that they had in a word, odd relationship with death, but there wasn't really much in this particular library, so I sent out a small, request about information about the people with that last name that may have odd relationships with death.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I see.
Still, just that lead in particular is what's making me think that there could be something wrong, and more importantly, something that he would know even the slightest bit about. And I know that relatively soon there's going to be a thing where people are going to fight him, and maybe if they come out on top, then it could be a thing where it's like, we'll let you live if you tell us this information. And she just puts both hands to her head. Sorry, been a bit neurotic recently, more than usual.
It is all
You're
right.
entirely fine. Yes.
This information, everything we've gathered so far is priceless to me. I cannot thank you enough. I know I keep saying it, but I really mean it. And when it comes to those Legion people specifically, during that one DBA event where one of their members was, well, bluntly put, informed of my presence, I've been acutely aware of myself and them, and trying to keep as many tabs as I can. Obviously, I can't keep much on them past what is gleaned through DBA itself, since they seem to be rather secret. However, I'm not sure what they would want with me, so I've been trying to keep myself rather safe, to be frank. That is part of the reason I haven't been as fervent in my searches recently.
At that point, Alchemia would kind of, sort of look to Arlia. You fought them. You encountered Ezekiel and the other two in that library, correct?
Not in the... Well...
Well, in that mansion with the library in it.
Yes. Yeah, I
Well,
did.
it seems to me in that case, White, if you want that question answered, my best hypothesis would be that there are things they don't know, and if anything, you might be a factor they haven't considered in post-mortem research or whatever. However, that's just my theory, and I don't think it's the best to dwell on that, just simply because she kind of begins pacing a bit. Simply because it just seems to be the current Legion seems to be irrelevant compared to what you're going through right now, White. Although on that note, it was mentioned recently that there was an old Legion, and she kind of just, starts thinking a bit more, and now it's time for her to rumble.
Oh,
But
God.
it's like...
Was there?
Yes, in a recent session. Apparently the cameras decided to pan over to the leader out of nowhere, and things were discussed. It was quite interesting, but...
Really, no.
Yes.
It seems
Yeah.
after coming to DBA, I had heard of its nature and propensity to wrap everything involved in it together, but I seem to have underestimated that capability.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't hear
The-
about that. Okay.
The other member that the leader was speaking to did seem to have the power to shut it off, so it isn't as powerful as you might think. But it is something.
You say that, and Cardinal looks over. They had the power to turn off the cameras, you say?
Yes, it was weird. She lifted up her hand, she said, from now on, clenched her fist, static.
Well, if you ever see her, tell her to do the same for whenever the cameras come down here in the underworld. A lot of the Reapers here really aren't a fan of everything that we do being broadcast.
Sure thing. Arlias
He
is
sort of
like looking
chuckles.
to the side.
Well,
She seems to have taken this as a serious request.
Alchemia would just kind of like look off to the distance. Well, considering that group has the tendency to put weaker people in with epithets and tubes, I don't know if I'm willing to chance right down there, but
Right.
I'll see what I can do.
From the bits I've seen, they seem rather despicable in that aspect, yes.
Mm-hmm. Again, no need to dwell on them. Just pondering. Alchemy would be like, I can show you both the scene later. I have a phone and all of that, so I mean.
Yes, certainly.
Might as well.
I have seen various scenes on those mobile devices.
Yeah. I think at that point, Alchemia might just show White and Arlia, just so you guys can get the information of A, there was an old legion, B, there's like a method that you can use to unlock
Kakapo.
post-mortem epithets. Yeah.
There is not an internet connection down here.
Oh, right. She shows you a black screen.
I see. Is there
Wow,
some
this is
sort of
very interesting.
is there some sort of password that you need to activate it?
Yes, the Wi-Fi code.
Looks to Bishop and Cardinal.
Yeah.
You have the Wi-Fi code.
They look to them. Unfortunately, wireless. Why is it called Wi-Fi? Isn't it wireless connection? Why shouldn't it be called Wi-Fi? Oh, Cardinal.
Arlia raises a hand.
Wait.
I do know the actual answer.
Yes, it's because it's a mixture of wireless and hi-fi, which was arbitrarily added. It was coined in the 1990s. It's just she's about to like start going off about like the origins of Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, I'm curious now that you mention it. Would it even be possible to implement that down here?
I mean, all you need is a couple routers.
Well, you say that, but there's an entirely different planar divide here, and I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, well you need to establish like your own like internet browser then.
Internet.
Arlia puts a hand on White's shoulder.
Yes, Arlia. What is the matter? Is the discussion of Wi-Fi disturbing you?
I might be in the midst of a technological revolution.
I see. I was amidst the technological revolution when I was outfitted with these cybernetics.
They like extend their arm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, stream is dying. Oh, hold on. Is stream dying?
No, I was making a joke about Comcast.
Yeah. I figured. I just needed to make 3,000,000% sure.
You could say
Actually-
in the underworld the internet connection is dead.
Mhm.
Bye.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you require assistance with how to use technology, I'm here.
I greatly appreciate it if I require said assistance.
I was
shall come.
talking to the brothers.
I see. Never mind.
They look back to the phone, sort of expecting it to turn on eventually. Bishop and Cardinal look over. It's Cardinal specifically. Yes, I suppose if we have questions, we'll come to you. I'm not sure we'll necessarily need it the way that you all have it structured. Again, I'm not sure of the logistics of how you would set it up down here. Plus, from what you've mentioned of the material plane more directly, and what we've read, it seems as if we kind of have a, what is it called, an aesthetic down here?
Arlia looks to Alchemea. They are learning the words. This could be
Yes.
dangerous.
Oh, while I'm here, I should probably correct myself. It stands for wireless fidelity. I was threatened by an outer god. Anyways, she doesn't say the last part,
Yeah,
but she does
I know,
correct
I know,
herself.
I see. Bishop takes out the notepad that he had before and just rewrites it down.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand why, but I can't help but notice that, like, you know, there's a lot of rocks under the ground, and she, like, scrambles to continue the sentence in a way that doesn't sound like she's a psychopath.
What is the matter
It
with
takes,
the
like,
rocks?
20 seconds. Point is, there are minerals that we haven't researched that might be useful.
I see.
Maybe one permits interplanar travel. Who knows?
Something tells me that if there was some sort of rock down here that was specifically, here's the rock that allows you to make more interplanar travel easier, then we would have discovered it ages ago. However, as soon as I say that, we haven't really needed that because we're
Aren't we
typically
supposed to help White find out their past?
I would greatly
Alchemea just
appreciate
says.
Yeah.
Yes, Wi-Fi.
Right.
Wi-Fi revolutions in the underworld would be great, but that's a gradual process. Meanwhile, we have an expedition to make.
Yes, yes.
Our Alchemea would sort of look at Arlia. So, do you have any other leads, or it kind of looks to White too? Any other ideas or anything like that?
Well, other than, well, I suppose it would be rather strange to stay here much longer, as in the underworld past our extended visitation period, I suppose. But other than further exploring this feeling I have,
They extend their hand up, and again, they're sort of shivering. They hold themselves still for a moment, but then release themselves and again start shivering.
other than figuring out exactly what's going on with this, from what I can tell, this library, or perhaps the libraries, would be the best place to get information, unless there would be someone else that would know more about the phenomenon that Bishop was talking about.
Alchemea would look around. Well, I do want to explore this library a bit more. The fact that, very explicitly, it was stated that, A, you're in... people who have died in the region of Japan would be in a different place. And B, that information is erased. I don't think being here would be too useful.
Most likely
Arli-
not, but
Arli, if you have
there is-
anyone else...
there is potentially something, and again, it depends. From what I understand, it's... Yes, there's locational factor, as well as potentially where the person is from, and it depends. There might be something here, but as you said, there is likely more information elsewhere.
But
Arli, if you know anyone else, bring us to them, but if not, I have a... Maybe it'll lead nowhere. But maybe it'll be something. If not for this situation, for maybe the benefit of DBA in the future, considering what happened.
If you would want, actually, Cardinal says, because I know that you've sent out requests to other libraries to gain books before. Yes, Arlia? Yes, we've done that?
yeah.
Right. If you desire, the two of us can try and get in contact with them and see what they can send over or what they're willing to send over.
Well, aside from that, other than talking to more prolific reapers, I was thinking I would go meet a husk and take a sample of them so we can study it for later.
I'm not sure I would recommend that, Cardinal says, sort of placing his hands on the table. Not only are the husks incredibly dangerous on their own, one bad hit from them and you could become one. To be frank, I would prefer if people were not taking samples of the things from down here.
Alchemy would kind of look forward. Well, aside from the latter comment, how fast can they move?
We are
Cardinal squints.
we are not taking a sample of those things.
If
Alright.
what you're looking for is some sort of... I assume you want... I assume that what you wanted was to get a sample of them so that you can compare them to some sort of sample from White. Yes, that's the thing you want to compare them?
Yes. And then give it to DBA, so in case they... Because, based on how things are going, it's not like they're never going to deal with post-mortem epithets again. It'd be useful to have something like that. But that is
Well,
just me.
That is your perspective, yes, and from our perspective as the ones that are maintaining this place, at least partially, we would much rather if we did not have to interact with the material plane as directly as this, ever, if ever in general, at the very least not very frequently. For if we can have our job as essentially silent caretakers of death, or has it how it would be, that would be how we would prefer it. And so, personally, instead of taking samples from husks and bringing them to the material plane, such that it could be put into the wrong hands, and suddenly you have people finding a way to find their ways in here, other than through people such as Arlia, and therefore trying to conquer death, as it were. If you would simply like to read up on the husks, that is more fine. However, taking a direct sample of them physically
Isn't happening.
I see. Well, I'll respect your wishes then. It was just... nope. That's not what happened.
I understand your perspective. From your perspective, you're trying to think not of only of yourself, but for your friend White here. White nods, as well as the future nature of Destruction Bench Agreement. If the idea is that they come into contact with more things related to post-mortem epithets and/or the underworld, having future knowledge would be great. However, I'm not sure if you really... I'm not sure how much you should trust everyone in that organization, and at least from our perspective, we would prefer not to have to deal with that.
Well, then that's that.
If blows come to blows, I'll stand up.
There are certainly other ways of examining the husks and comparing and contrasting them. Again, as I said earlier, Cardinal again looks to White. There is clearly something regarding White that's more than simply just death. I'm not sure what. It seems as if there's either a very small amount of it, or something obscuring it, or something strange going on, which only leads me to further believe that Bishop bringing up the event from back then is more accurate, considering that was a strange event as it was. There's something going on with this person and the underworld, and whether it means that they're a husk, whether it means that they're some other creature, their soul is partially stuck in limbo here. Maybe they have some sort of Reaper blood in them, or at least they did. There's infinite possibilities. So...
The connection goes deeper than we first thought. That is very good information.
Yes. It's difficult to tell much else than that, and I apologize. I wish I could provide more information. I'm sure that it's frustrating to hear that there's something... waves his hand sort of like, ooh. But not much else that I can tell, but I hope that the information we could provide you is enough to at least get you started, because quite frankly, I'm sure that the both of us are now incredibly intrigued and would like to know ourselves.
I'll keep you both updated.
Well, at least we have additional people looking into that. That's good to know.
Right. White nods at all of this.
As I said before, this is invaluable to me. The path of having a connection to this place, to this event, a time period, a connection to my epithets, potential future avenues.
They once again look.
I hate to be a broken record, but thank you. I
hate to continue breaking the record further, but but it isn't an issue. We're happy to help.
I'm happy to see that, despite my nature as non-human,
oddity.
a spirit, an epithet, whatever it is, there are people willing to not only help me, but trust me and believe me.
Well,
I will do the same for all of you. If any of you require my services for anything, let me know and I shall be there as soon as I possibly can.
That's why I...
Duly noted.
So, hey. Only fair that I pass back the favor, yeah?
Understood.
They would first extend a hand out to Arlia for a shake, and if Arlia accepts, then to Alchemea.
Mm-hmm.
She'd
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
like, nervous about it, but yeah.
Yeah, Alchemea would take it.
Yep, and then after that would sort of just bow to the both of them.
Well, Arlia, again, unless you have anything else, I don't imagine we're going to get much today unless you have anyone in particular to talk to. But if not, I think today we can consider it successful enough, you know?
There's one person, but she is often busy. So,
It is up to you. This information we've gathered so far is certainly useful. I won't say no to more, but if it is more trouble for you than it is worth, then we can simply come back to this at a later date, if at all.
there is the sound of stone scraping against the floor as Arlia looks to the brothers.
Yes, what is the matter?
You know what the matter is.
Well, from what I guess, says Cardinal, she's probably, as she usually is, doing her duties. If not there, she is potentially at the castle.
Mm-hmm. I was more asking if she would be okay with it.
I mean, I believe so, says Cardinal. Bishop looks over. I mean, yes, I would assume that you of all people would know by now that while, yes, she's incredibly busy and incredibly focused on doing her job well, if there is an important enough thing to be handled, she can leave the duties to Os for a moment.
Yeah, one would think that I know that.
Yes. I certainly
Yeah.
thought that you did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
White looks to Arlia.
She's having a breakdown.
It appears that you're rather, how shall I say, nervous.
No, I'm fine. I'm alright.
If you don't feel like talking to her, I mean, we can just call it here. I mean, it's no big deal.
Arlia, ever the fucking nervous disaster, just nods, and it is, by all accounts, impossible to tell if she means like, yeah, that's fair, or, yeah, let's go and talk to her.
Alchemea is going to use her superpowers to deduct whether it means that...
I will say this. If other people are interested, I will... I mean, not me, but... She slaps herself. Point is, if other people want to, we can talk to her.
I mean, I am rather interested, yes. However, I do not mean to make this a volley back and forth of a self-sacrificing pariah. However, it seems very clear that you are particularly nervous about doing this, and I have gained quite a breadth of information here today. If you would rather wait for another time where you can ensure that everything is okay, I am more than fine for that. If not, you talk to her and then we get in contact later. I'm fine either way.
No. Actually, you know what? I have a good idea, too. I'll work with Os if he needs the help. He shouldn't,
Alright.
but, it's...
Alright, so the decision is made, we're going. As Alchemia just seemingly just puts a cap on the volley
You see?
and just...
Exactly! Arlia says, nervously walking.
Very well.
Yeah.
Of note, if it is not abundantly clear, she is never better.
Mhm.
All right.
To, just for Soleil's reference and sake.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah.
So,
So,
let me grab this, right? Because
I'll move us to the map if you need.
well, no. Oh, it's all good. Just hold on.
Oh yeah, you're not streaming, so.
Yeah, no. As you would do this, I assume that Arlia would sort of do her Reaper portal thing and go over to Vellatry.
she's been getting better with it, so.
Yeah, request an audience, and Vellatry would be like, sort of look to her, very well, and summon Os to her side, give Os the orders to follow after. Tell Arlia, you grab the two that you've brought. I shall meet you at the castle. And as that would occur, let me just do this and set funny things up as you know what? Just for the sake of it, why not? Let's just for a change of pace. Let's.
Yeah. We're dead.
Yeah. As
Arlia might as well be.
yeah, you all
Mhm.
find yourselves in the typical castle courtyard as Vellatry, in her usual way, appears first as a swarm of orange butterflies before forming into her typical body.
Hi.
Hello, Arlia.
Sorry for interrupting. Lots of things have happened today. Basically, points to White. Friend, and he
Greetings.
wants to know stuff about his past. He's an amnesiac. It's not a great time. And I
There.
Yes, I was going to wait till you were finished, but yes,
Mhm.
Sorry.
it is fine.
Thumbs up.
Continuing to sweat bullets as always.
Mhm.
Listen, all that I was saying, right? This point is, well, we talked with Bishop and Cardinal, and, basically, we have a couple of leads, but of course, you're, a lot older than them, and know a lot more, I would think, at least partially, so we came to you for assistance.
To an extent, yes, I know more. They are more book smart, as you may expect, as the holders of the library. However, I have been around for longer and am privy to certain things that they are not.
Exactly. She looks to Alchemia.
Oh yes. Well, would you happen to know about any? This is the lead we have currently. Would you happen to know about any samurai that existence could possibly be contained between the years of, let's say, 1808 to 1880, in the region of Japan
She
that happened to be a samurai?
Yeah, she looks to Alchemia. My apologies, young one. However, that is a very broad scope. Yeah, as a very broad scope for, well, asking me such a question. There are many samurai who died between that time period, and I'm not sure how much Bishop and Cardinal told you. I certainly have dealt with some samurai, however, that area of the world is not
Indeed.
necessarily my jurisdiction. It is to an extent partially for, even though we are all given our places, there are crossovers between everything every now and again. However, if you want something more specific, you're going to have to give me something more specific.
And we do. For a portion of time around the world, there was I guess the term would be a sort of abundance of books with little in them. For whatever reason, I'm not sure if it was found out, but I thought that I would come to you about that because you might know about that. There's also Otigos, but there are, Arlia just, like, loses a certain luster to her eyes for a few moments. There are other issues in the way of him.
Yes, Our thought process currently is that whoever I was in my past life has a great chance of existing and living somewhere within the time period that Miss Sibis described. And there is a chance that perhaps they are somehow involved with this phenomenon that your brother spoke of.
I see. I believe that you're speaking of the particular... I'm not sure if outbreak is the exact proper word, but the sudden appearance of a sudden influx, rather, of empty or obscured books relating to the souls of various people from around the world, yes?
Arlia just nods fervently.
Yeah, Alchemy would nod as well.
Well, what I know about that phenomenon is that it was caused by... Well, the problem is that it is multiple things. And people aren't entirely sure of exactly what was the primary cause. For, well, there are many different things that it could be, and it could be a singular factor, it could be many cropping up at once. The prime belief, at least the one that I hold, is that someone or something they were trying to obscure information about these people. I'm not sure entirely myself. I know that I certainly wasn't the one to do it. And I remember that at the time when it was happening, there were many beliefs that it was either me or my brothers, or if not them, some other member of my family. Someone believing that it's some sort of cover-up from someone in the higher-up positions. And while it certainly wasn't me, and I doubt it was Bishop, Cardinal, or my father, I doubt, there is a chance that that is accurate. That is one of the leading theories. There is always the chance that, while I doubt that Otigos himself would have slacked off, there is a chance that something strange happened that caused him to miss some books. There's a chance that there was some sort of interference from the material plane. Perhaps the various reapers that were bringing these souls into the underworld, or at least initially reaping them, some sort of something happened to them. I'm not entirely sure. However, around that time, there were stresses regarding rogue actors, as it were. Various reapers that were going against our code, and in doing so could cause a problem, and people use this event to point fingers at various people, saying that they were the traitors or what have you. And to an extent, that still remains the common belief.
So it's less so a phenomenon that happened on the material plane. It could possibly be a underworld conspiracy.
There is a chance. There is also an equal chance that it could be something with the material plane.
Hmm.
However, from living through the event as it was happening, the general consensus was that it was most likely something from the inside. However, anything could happen, I suppose.
Alchemy would kind of just, look up and sort of, begin thinking a bit more, and it's just like, oh, I'll just put her to, just sort of sparks flying off of her head as she sort of like, tries to put all the pieces together. It's all coming together.
Actually, while you're thinking, Arlaya, I doubt that you would do this, but I suppose I should make sure. This isn't being broadcast to the DBA right now, is it?
No. She like just very just wide berths of just like, no, good lord, no. I would never do that with something so important. Do not think so lowly of me, please.
Alchemy would check her phone, black screen. It doesn't seem like it.
I see. You must.
Unless there's something very wrong.
White just like leans into Alchemea.
You must tell me this password later.
Yeah, she nods.
Yeah. Unless something is wrong, I see. Very well, that's fair. I would just... It isn't a matter of... How do I describe it? It has already caused quite a ruckus with all of the information regarding us becoming more public to the material plane. And to be frank, I would prefer to keep information out of it, not for any conspiracy of so we can mistreat things, but simply so that things that don't get out of hand in the material plane, the more that people learn of how we work, I presume the more that people will try and commandeer it.
And that's what I'm trying very specifically to prevent.
I appreciate that, Arlaya. I understand that. I wouldn't have expected you to do something so careless, but I needed to make 100% certain.
But, okay, that makes things a bit more interesting in a, grand scheme of things sort of sense. If it is the wide belief that... She, puts a hand to her head and actually calms down somewhat. The way that I'm seeing it, it's a matter of, well, if this is what we should be focusing on now, and the prospect of someone wanting to sabotage in some way,
that is certainly an interpretation.
Yes.
I would not put, as I've heard people say, all of your eggs in one basket, per se. However, from my perspective, it is a good thing to look into in the sense of it could lead you to your answers. However, on the flip side, White interrupts.
I imagine that if it's some sort of inner working conspiracy, trying to get to the bottom of it ourselves could lead to more.
Indeed. The thing I've been thinking of recently is what could have been so notable that there's an entire conspiracy to try and hide multiple people's stories, not from just Japan, but from around the world.
Exactly.
It could be a material plane phenomenon, but what exactly would it be? It hasn't happened recently, and we know very well that something like a post-mortem epithet they're still being used.
At the very least, it hasn't been as prevalent recently, if that's what you're thinking.
Exactly. There could be a variety of things that they're trying to do in regards to almost social engineering. with people wanting to keep certain things hidden or out of view. Yeah, you know, this has gotten a lot more interesting and more in-depth in so many words.
Indeed. Fellatry, or Miss Fellatry, I'm sorry. She just,
You may call me Vellatry for now.
Alright. Wasn't aware of the proper honorific, so thank you for clarifying. I do just want to ask, with all the information we've presented, is there anything else you might know of, or is the big takeaway here that we've stumbled upon a conspiracy?
And not necessarily that we stumbled upon a conspiracy, just that it's a possibility that...
There is
She
a
can-
possibility,
yes.
because, well, for one, based on the information you're telling me, you don't even know necessarily if... I mean, it can be assumed, potentially. But there's no confirmation that your friend here is even directly connected to this conspiracy. Perhaps it was simply happening at a similar time. However, she looks to them. It is clear that they are birthed from the effect of someone, as Arlia has described it, being called post-mortem epithet, yes. It is clear to me that they are birthed of that phenomenon, and there is something else there. Something more. I'm gonna give her a roll. There's something more.
The brothers said something similar.
Yes, the closest I can equate it to is that it feels at least like a partial bit of their being, more so than simply being dead, in some way originates from the underworld in some form. That's a very vague feeling, but that's what I'm feeling.
Let me open up a good friend of mine.
Just Alchemeo looks at Arlia, like, who are you referring to?
That was me out of character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something from here.
Hmm.
Assuming that I was a human in the material plane, what exactly would be from here?
Well, I guess if we're not sure of the answer now, I guess that's our next thing of research.
All right. I'm going to just try a small little thing. Let's do a night draw.
Okay.
I imagine she can. I imagine
you can take
try.
20. You
And
can
I,
take 20.
and I mean, like, guys, 4 is the number of death in like some mythology.
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right.
Four is the number of
All
death,
right,
meaning
this
Arlia just launches Alchemy into the river Styx and just
Yeah,
dissolves in us.
goodbye. So in that case, right? You know what? This is very, very interesting. This is an interesting set of words. All right. Here's a little idea.
Yeah.
So I got the word exchange, right?
Yeah.
4 isn't the Western death number. Ah, shit!
Yeah. Should've rolled a 13, dumbass.
Ah, damn it! Oh no, my rib cage.
Yeah. What's up?
But
Me when I'm at 'em.
nonetheless, right? I'm just thinking to myself, right?
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm pondering to myself. Is there like Soleil, I guess you're the GM here, right?
Yeah, I am.
Can I exchange something of Arlaya's, be it like, you know, like proficiency, stamina, something more important if you want to be spicy, to see if there can be at least like hints of sorts dropped? Or
What are you willing to give up?
Well,
Your
to
liver.
start off, I am willing to give up something if you are wanting me to give it up, in the sense that just like I trust you to make things interesting.
I mean, it's an
She would-
exchange. You gotta exchange.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She would also put Fragment Mommy on the sort of like take from this bitch if possible, but do that if you want to.
Okay.
Though finally, I suppose 20 proficiency and 20 stamina.
That's a lot.
It is.
You wanna? You sure you want to give up that much?
Like I was thinking that's like the max, you know, and
Okay.
depending on
Alright.
like a roll, say that I would give you like right now. You say what I.
Okay.
That was close. That was real close.
All right, 14. Got it.
Mhm.
So, basically, you're asking how much to exchange for a little hint, right?
Exactly.
Okay. With the upwards of 2020, I'll say, how about for the funsies of it, you know what? You rolled a 14, so that's on the higher end. So I'll bump that number down a bit. Between stamina and prof, give up 7.
All right. I'll take it all from stamina, just because like you know, proficiency is a bit funky right now, but nonetheless, she just sort of makes 3 little orbs in her hand after trying a few times, cocks her head at one, and then like waves the other 2 off, crushes it in her hand, and like a decent amount of her mass of the arm is just like expunged from it, as she doesn't seem to react. Well, hey. There are costs for things.
And so, you do this, right? In an attempt to get something more out of it, right? Which, with how your epithet is working, seems to pull things a certain way, right? Yeah, I mean, you have string puller, right?
Of course.
The best way to describe it is that you can feel your epithet almost acting as the string puller to bring a course of events, as it were, you know?
Yep.
And as you do, and you feel like a weird... The best way I can describe it is just like a flash, right? Not visual, but like a flash around you. The feeling you get, it seems to centralize on Velatry, right? Where, because you know, I rolled a nat 1 earlier, so she wasn't considering a certain thing, at least necessarily. However, with your influence, Velatry puts a hand to her chin. Hold on a moment. She thinks to herself here, what exactly was it that you said?
In regards to?
She thinks for a moment. You said, assuming that I was, looking to White, assuming that I was a human samurai in that time period, what if you get rid of the assumption that you were human?
That seems so obvious in hindsight.
That's a very interesting consideration.
Arlaya just looks to White.
For the first time, again, they've been shivering. Their whole body, they seem to, like, freeze up and think to themselves,
that would explain, potentially, if I was not human, or at least not entirely human, that there could be something else from here.
Alchemia even sort of, looks towards White. That's, I haven't really considered this, or even asking this, but that was your helmet when you woke up, right? Right? Not really altered other than applying cybernetics on the very surface level, not really changing its shape, correct?
You said my helmet, yes?
Your helmet.
The helmet specifically was modified a fair bit.
But did it retain its shape?
I believe so.
Looks at it again. Well, that is a very odd helmet for a person to wear.
Exactly.
Barely even covers the back of your head. An easy place to strike.
It is, I must say, it is difficult to say exactly. For you see, when I woke up, it was similar to this, but for all I know, this could simply be a fragment of what it was. There could have used to have been a back to it from before I woke up.
Yeah.
That's entirely fair, but it was something I wanted to bring up.
Fair enough.
It's a very interesting thing you propose, and it does really explain a lot. I do constantly forget that this world is filled with lizard people, feline people, and other sorts of not quite human species, so the idea that a race like that could have existed in the past definitely shouldn't have been taken off the table.
I'm not sure myself exactly. However, I believe that leaving that door open can potentially bring you more because, as you said, that was an assumption. And sometimes assumptions like that need to be challenged.
Alchemia would be like, this was incredibly helpful, Valetry. I'm sure White could say it himself, but we are all very thankful for
I certainly am.
this.
I am eternally grateful.
She nods. Very well. If you desire more information, I suppose I can attempt to give it, but considering the line of thought you are currently following with your friend presumably being related to the event of the souls not being properly tracked, it will be difficult for me to find information retroactively. When I have spare moments, I can attempt to ask my father and others, but I can't guarantee you anything.
I think I can take over from here. I don't want to intrude very much on your already limited free time like I am doing right now. She almost remembers, right, I'm talking to Velatry. I'm horrified again. Neither here nor there. I sincerely, very, very sincerely appreciate the help. Getting this far would have taken a very long time otherwise. But, truth be told, I'm not sure how much help you can be as of current going forward. And other things that come to mind bear only the context that these people have in mind. Which is a sentence that in hindsight makes no sense, but whatever.
Yes, Arlai, I apologize. She, looks to her. I understand that in the grand scheme of things, this is still new for you. But really, I think it would behoove you to try and calm your nerves around me.
She just nods.
Well, Velatri, unless you have anything else. I know we're on behest of Arlia, but it probably isn't the best for mortal people to be in the underworld plane, so I think it's best if we get going.
Oh, certainly not. You are likely fine now because of Arlia's status, and, well, considering what we've mentioned about White over there is a chance that perhaps there is something with them, but primarily Arlia has probably made it so that you are fine. If you were to stay here for much longer, for a prolonged stay, you would likely start to feel your energy being drained from you, so if nothing else, for your own benefit, it would be a good idea to not stay much longer.
I think... Oh, no. Arlia, like, puts a hand, the good hand, to her face again. And, White, in your memory, there was, sort of, you know, the bad memory, the bad portion at least, was just someone turning into a monster. And whilst it may be my paranoia, I can't help but make the comparison to Ezekiel.
There is a chance that, whether that was me specifically, or someone directly related to me, that a phenomenon from back in the day has arisen again with this Ezekiel.
Again, that is for all of us. Again. That's for us to consider back in the material plane.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine. She kind of just, at this point, turns to Velatri and is just like, it was an honor meeting you.
Of course.
Good luck doing what you do here.
And White will just, go up and bow, and Velatri will, nod to that.
Again, I cannot thank you enough. I could ask you infinite questions, but alas, there is not infinite time. And unfortunate, and rather, similarly, I feel as if most of the questions I would ask have already been asked by me prior or the others.
I understand. And with one last look to each other, White will back up to the other two.
If we are to leave the underworld now, I am more than satisfied.
I think we've gotten plenty today.
Indeed. And I have things I want to look into myself now. So, both regarding this and otherwise. Arlia just, on roll 20, there you go. Wanting to impress Velatri, let me just roll to cut open a portal. Yeah! She's doing it!
Yeah, she does.
She's doing it, baby!
Yeah!
With that, we can have Arlia lead Alchemea and White out into the portal. The moment they would return to the material plane, there would be, a moment of change, but White would stop with the shivering. And as all of that leave, Velatri again dissolves into butterflies, a snapping noise occurring, and as it does, in place of Velatri down by the garden returns our good pal.
Yeah.
Who is now back to his own duties.
And we could end it here, but if people want it, I have like a small post-session zinger, or not session, post-thing zinger to, lead into the next session if that's fine with everybody here.
Oh, why would it not be?
So, White. We're going to Theater of the Mind this, by the way. So, White. You sort of, arrive back, you sort of, however it comes to it, you probably come back to the DBA building just to check in how things are going. Maybe see if there's anything to sign up for. And there is. There is an announcement that the DBA workers have set up that says the next session will be mostly helmed by one Marama Vataka, supposedly someone who is associated with Bloodstone Island, someone who's been interacting with people with the DBA place recently. And the mission she is prescribing is to help her with a job in the past. And White, you're sort of, reading this thing and looking up and down, especially since talking about the past. This probably interests you somewhat,
Yeah.
And then a particular set of numbers catch your eye in the specific mission dossier or however it's pronounced.
Yeah, dossier.
The specific, dossier. Something describing at least some details that people would need to know ahead of time. You see a particular set of numbers. The year 1861. And I think that is where we're going to end our session, unless there's any particular thing.
I don't know why the music was stopped, but let's get it back on!
Yeah, let's get it back on, but I just wanted that little... I just wanted that little cutoff, because it's cool. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, look forward to that this weekend, everybody.
Yeah, with all that being said, of course, thank you all for watching. We couldn't have done this. We can't do...
We have fan art.
We do? Oh, we do! We do have fan art!
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I can show that off now if you would like me to.
Yeah.
Alright. We got something from Macro.
One sec.
Yeah.
Let me just... There we go. If you want to read it out, Soleil.
Yeah.
It is time to RP. What's my backstory? Well...
Sure, lol.
Damn.
Loss
Kamea.
So yeah, thank you very much for that, Macro. If you're new around here, you're enjoying yourself, and you want to know when, where, how, why, you can catch up with more of the things we're doing here on this Discord channel, Twitch channel, whether it be DBA, other spin-offs or otherwise. I completely threw myself off. You should join our Discord server. Fine dining! Yow! Click it. There we go.
Holy
There's the funny
shit.
link. Thank you all for
There
watching.
it is.
And of course, thank you to Kakapo and Scarlet for being involved here today, and Ballast for streaming this whole goddamn thing in the first place. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And also there might be a thing where they time travel to a year that might have been in the range that has been mentioned. Oh, I wonder what that could be about.
Perchance. There's a
Well,
chance.
no, just imagine if we touched not about that at all and just focused on the American Civil War instead.
It would be so funny. Haha.
God, I would laugh.
Anyway.
Yeah, I would too.
Anyway, yeah.
Say
Thank you
goodbye
all
to
for
chat,
watching.
everybody.
Say goodbye to chat, everybody. Thank you. Good night.